Hey folks, in this video we're up here in Canada and I shot a ram, a Dall sheep, and a lot of people ask, how do you cape one of these? How do you salt the hide? How do you take care of it? How do you flesh it? And I'm gonna film Riley while he does all this. I think it takes about 2 hours. We're not gonna make this 2 hours long, but you're gonna see just the care and the precision and the really important places that he's gonna talk about, because you gotta get that hide off the animal. You have to make sure you get all the tissue and flesh and meat and fat off the hide, and then you have to salt it and you have to let it drain. So hopefully you learned something in this video. What are you about to do there, Riley?
Well, I'm going to take the hide off of the skull from around the base of the horns, leaving all the necessary parts for a taxidermist in order to mount this properly, which there is a fairly specific way to do it in order to turn the lips, ears, and eyes. So once they're turned and they're ready for salt, they're open up to allow the salt to penetrate all the way down, and the hair can actually hold. That way when it goes through the tanning process, the hair doesn't fall out. So it's a slow, tedious process. We cut as close to the horn as we possibly can with this part. There's a really soft medium between the hide and the horns where the hair is actually growing and becoming horn. It's pretty interesting. This is the shock absorber that all these rams carry.
Can you put your knife blade on that shock absorber?
Exactly. This whole thing right here, it comes all the way around. For whatever reason, that takes the brunt of the energy when they impact their heads.
Is that also part of why the leather is so thick right there behind their head?
Correct. Relative, you can see it really well there. It's my knife blade width here, all the way down, and then the moment it gets to his neck, it thins right out to almost a
normal
16th of an inch.
Slow and methodical, huh?
Slow and methodical, yes sir. This part's fairly key right here around the horns.
Yeah, if you don't give your taxidermist anything to work with there, it's gonna make his job a lot more difficult.
Correct, and if he has to stretch or pull or change the shape of the hide in order for it to fit around the horns, it's not gonna actually have the same look as the sheep would have when he was alive, which we want to give him everything we can. We're gonna work our way up here into the eye. There are some key pieces that need to remain around the eyelids and the tear ducts.
Yeah, on any animal you want to leave as much of the eyelid as possible.
Correct.
As in 100% of it.
Yes.
Because it is possible to leave 100% attached.
I like to keep my one finger always in the eye socket while I do this part to feel it.
When in doubt, put the blade right to the bone.
Yes.
Because your taxidermist cannot put eyelashes and eyebrows back on your animal.
Yes.
You know, in today's world of fake eyebrows and fake eyelashes, that seems like that should have been possible for taxidermy, but I've yet to see it.
They can't necessarily fix everything.
So now you're to the membrane.
Mm-hmm. You want to go slow.
You'll be able to cut that pretty soon, huh?
Just about.
So there's the opening to the eye.
There's a small little membrane inside here that actually gives the eye shape as well. There's this little flap right here. This has to stay with the eyelid.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to leave a little fat on. You can always remove that after. But you can't put it back on. You want to stay nice and tight to the skull through the rest of this process, especially for his tear ducts. At the same time, while doing all of this, you want to leave as much of that flesh as you can on the skull. That way you don't have to do as much fleshing once you're done before you salt. This is what should be left after you're done with an eyelid. You should have more than 1/2 inch of usable flesh all the way around. Here we did good. We have about 1 inch to 1/2 inch all the way around, including this tab.
Alright folks, we had to move under the tarp because the rain came.
Move on to the lips. 1/2 inch where you can of usable material. So I like to start these cuts around here, nice and tight to the gums. I try to keep my knife as close to the bone here as I can. Gums are soft and sensitive. Now that I have it mostly cut in through here, and about halfway through the bottom of the nose cartilage against the skull, I can kind of work the hide back over the end of the nose. I like to start at the cheeks. And again, I use my fingers to see where I have to cut. So right there I can see my finger. This means I gotta cut just in front of it. That's the cheek muscle. Kind of getting to an important part here, but you always keep your knife edge against the bone here. That way you can feel when the cartilage turns soft and you can cut down through the nose. That way you can keep as much of the bone, nose bone, on the hide as possible. You'll know when you're there because your knife should drop into it right there. There you have it. It's taking the hide off the head.
So what we're doing here, folks, is Riley's going to show us how you flesh all the muscle and tissue, and they call split the lips, and you also got to get the cartilage out of the ears. Otherwise, if you don't do that, the salt won't be able to penetrate to the leather, and you'll end up with what we'd call slipping. In other words, the fur and the hide will come away from the fur will come away from the hide. So what you're doing is you just have your knife between the membrane and the leather.
Yep, and I have my thumb here so I can feel the depth of the tip, and then I pinch it, and I actually
move it forward,
leverage it off my thumb and my forefinger, all while trying to keep it as tight to the hide to keep from having to do too much fleshing after the fact. But there's usually a little to do if you're an amateur like I. I'm gonna work on the nose now.
So now with the nose, you're just going to remove that cartilage away.
Yeah, I have to actually try my best to split this right here. So I have both separate nostrils, and then I can open up everything around it and all of the wrinkles and everything so that the salt can get into all the little crevices, and all the little things you see in here have to get salt in them. There's more folds to a nose than you can kind of see at first.
So here you're just taking the cartilage off.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is to get as much of the leather exposed as possible.
Yes, open up every crease.
So Riley, what are we doing here? The tricky part, huh?
Well, the tricky part, you bet. We're
ears.
just prepping the edge of this ear cartilage so I can get down into the nitty-gritty middle of it and start to turn this ear right inside out.
So what does the ear look like before you do this?
So the hide's attached, obviously, throughout the entire thing. And I'm going to be flipping this outside part of the hide is going to actually peel up and out and remain attached inside but detached outside in order to dry the cartilage that runs through the middle of this ear and down into its core.
If not, if you don't get all that out of there, then the hair that is on your ear is going to eventually fall off.
Yes.
And you're going to have a really weird looking mount.
Yes.
So once you pull this cartilage out, the taxidermist is able to get plastic ears that they slide back in there.
Right.
Kind of like pulling a sock off.
Yeah, kind of.
And your foot is the cartilage, and the sock is the furred part of the ear.
But there are only certain sides of the ear that you can make your cuts on.
Yeah.
You cannot cut on the inside edge.
Well, you can try, but you're not going to have very
try.
good luck. You're going to cut a lot of fur.
So I go all the way around to get it started to see where everything's attached and what side I need to work from. And as you go, certain parts of the ear that are still attached will hold you back. So you have to find all the spots that are stopping you from making progress and open them up to continue moving elsewhere. So you're constantly rotating the ear in order to find any webbing that's still attached, making small light cuts as to not cut into the hair, and you always want to cut against the cartilage. This will save you from blowing through the ear, and it will continue you on the right path. Here's the inside part of the ear. This is where it's attached. You can see there's a small black spot there that's actually, so I'm all the way there, which means I can start working my way up. And sometimes you get your finger in there to help push the ear inside out, and you can hold it. And this will show you exactly where you need to go. Anything blue is hair, and everything that's slightly yellow is your cartilage. And as you go, you're looking for the shape of the ear to show itself. So once in a while, if you're wondering how far along you are, you take the ear, and push it inside out again, or outside right, I should say. And you can actually feel it with your finger how far along you are inside. And I'm about halfway out to the tip of this small point right here. So at the end, it'll be a nice oak leaf shape. Always readjusting and pushing up from the inside to expose more webbing. Continue pushing it inside out. Go back on the edge as I'm struggling here to get right to the tip. Something's holding me back along here. But once I can see that this cartilage is at the edge of its life, I know I'm pretty much open as I can possibly get all the way along that side. So maybe it's over here. It is. It's right here. So we're gonna go and feel what's left. Feels like just a little bit left here at the tip. Don't push too hard or you will blow right through it as you're going to finishing touches. Already there. So as you can see, this is the shape on this side, and this should match the way that your looks on the other side. And so you know you're all the way there. Looks pretty good.
Just like that, the ear is done. One more to go.
One more to go.
So we're getting ready to salt the hide. Riley has a bag of salt there. You can see what the cape looks like once you get it all fleshed and cleaned up. You can see right now there's a ton of flies wanting to be on there. That's why you want to get it salted right away.
We got it on an angle here just to help
Drain the oil out.
drain blood, drain oil, everything that's this salt's gonna pull out of the hide. That way it doesn't sit there soaking in it and stain the hide. And I rinsed it in the creek so it's wet. So it needs to dry.
So what do you think would end up on here? 5 pounds? 8 pounds?
Maybe. Hard to say, really.
Rubbing it in every little nook and cranny.
Especially the edges. They like to curl in. And the face is important.
The ears that you spent all that time on. The nose. And all of those pieces that you meticulously worked on. And this is just non-iodized salt, right?
Yep. This is just straight up table salt.
A lot of work got to the point of salting. You don't just salt it without all the work of fleshing and turning the ears and the lips and the nose. Otherwise the salt won't penetrate. If it doesn't penetrate, it won't do any good. And now you wait.
That's her.
All right. These flies are going to die of some sort of sodium intake.